Man, I tell you what, it's nice to talk, and not that I wouldn't like 1,000 people in here, but it's nice to talk to a small group because this is really a topic that's going to hit close to home. It's a topic that I could spend an hour and a half to 2 hours on. So I'm going to do a little treetop jumping, but then when I think there's a certain point that you really need to really grab onto, I'm going to dig down into the tree a little bit. So let's get, everybody said retirement reality check. Who's juiced about retirement? Come on now, who's juiced? Well, guys, if you'd had 3 Red Bulls like me, you would be juiced, let me tell you. They just put them back out there, and I had another one, and I think that's my third. When you're running on 3.5 hours of sleep, you say, God, I need a Red Bull. Boy, it tastes pretty good. I'm going to have another one. And then I had a third. That may have put me over the edge. So if I start to talk fast, just raise your hand, and I'll slow down. But anyway, retirement, if you're not juiced about it, are you even thinking about it? Is it something you think will then never occur? So let's kind of dig into it just a little bit. Turning it on helps. I'm going to hit you with a couple of sobering thoughts. This is kind of like a prize fighter, kind of loosening the crowd up, loosening their mind up, if you will. One of the things, what is your number one commodity or thing, for lack of better vernacular, you have in life? Bingo, time. When you give somebody time, you have given them the greatest gift you have. If you go to have lunch with somebody, if you go out with friends, you have given them the greatest commodity, whatever you want to call it. I'm using commodity, but the greatest thing you have. You can give them money, but that's not the greatest thing you have. Think about it. That's a sobering thought. So, guys, I'm going to stop right now and thank every one of you for giving me right now your most valuable possession, time. So thank you. No, seriously, I'm serious because that is, and Roy's up here in the front, and before I said anything, did you look ahead? No, okay. Anyway, it is time. So sobering thought number 1. Now, I don't have a slide on this, but this is sobering thought number 2. And I'm going to refer back to these during this real quick 30-minute presentation. And this is the one that scares me to death. Chris talked just a moment ago about how sometimes I'll be doing a tax return, and we always do tax projections. And we always strategize to try to reduce it as much as we can. But the thing that really kind of can foul things up is when something goes differently than you projected. It's just a projection. But still, it is something that I agonize over. But here's the second sobering thought, and the most scary thought that I have had in my entire professional career. You ready? You don't know what you don't know. The scariest thing. What if I'm working for you, and I'm taking 60 to 80 continuing education hours a year. I'm going off to Las Vegas to take advanced courses in tax strategy for the wealthy. And I'm still sitting there trying to apply all of these strategies to your situation to try to get your taxes down. And I could go on and on about different strategies. But what if there's something I don't know? Then I feel like maybe I failed just a little bit. And gosh dang it, I hate to fail. I hate to fail. So that's why I work so hard and, like Chris says, probably care too much. My wife says, Garland, you just got to let it go. You did the best you could. But anyway, those are the 2 sobering thoughts that I want to bring to you as we got into the rest of the presentation. Now, when you're young, this gets back into time still. When you're young, what do you have more of? Time. Right. You remember when you were young and you'd get out of school for the summer? It would last forever. I mean, forever. The summer was like a year. Now, the summer is like 2 weeks. Because when you're older, well, that's a sobering picture, isn't it? When you're older, what do you have more of typically? Money, sure, money. Now, here's kind of an interesting factoid, and this is something we've got to go back, and I'm still right now trying to get your attention before I get into some of the reality checks. And after you say, well, Garland, you've got me so depressed, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to tell you what you're going to do. And I can't show you how to do it in 30 to 40 minutes, but I can tell you what you need to consider doing. In 2008, I think Steve mentioned earlier today that, the other recessions didn't really affect him. But this last recession really affected him, because I think everybody knows here, and he didn't go into it, they did not really tell us how close we were for it to being a full-blown depression. There is a lot of things that led up to that. Since that's happened, there were people, and this is sad because I saw it, people would, you would contribute money every month to your retirement program, and it was going down faster than your contributions could prop it up. I've got clients that lost 52 to 58%. They got sick of it. They couldn't handle it. What did they get? What did they do? They got out. What happened the next 2 years? It climbed back up. What happened to their monies that were on the sideline? They missed that run up. And that has been devastating to them. That's why they had the catch up. If all of you guys that are over 50, if not over 50, you probably still know about it, that if you're over 50 years or older, there is catch up contributions. Well, for some of these guys that got out of the market, that's not going to be enough. For the smart guys and gals, I say guys collectively, y'all know that. For the smart investor, they just kept putting the money in, and they were getting lower bases, so they had more run up. But since that happened, our mindset, I have seen my clients' mindsets change drastically. Some people think, will I ever retire? Is retirement over? So let's look at some of the reasons we got to the meltdown. This is kind of like a history lesson. The 2002, 2004, there were 718,000 swimming pools in the United States. Anybody ever thought about that? You know what it was in the 60s, 70s? It was like 150,000, 200,000. I mean, we had such a run-up during the after Carter years. I got to have more than 10 minutes. But anyway, okay, I'll speed up. Sorry, guys. 2005, savings in 401k plans peaked. 2006, $41 million was spent on pets. There's still a lot of money spent on pets. But these are kind of little factoids you go, whoa, $41 million? HELOCs are used like ATM machines now. They've tripled. And there is less than, in the ages of 55 to 64, the average American has less than $100,000 in their retirement plans. There were $3 trillion in unfunded pension. How can there be unfunded pension? Well, a lot of these big companies have defined benefit plans, and there are certain levels that you can fund them up to, and then there's minimum levels. And then there's some people breaking the law probably and not even funding the minimum level. But it's calculated by the Bureau of Labor Statistics that we have $3 billion in not properly funded pension plans. I mentioned HELOCs, and workers are quitting to get their hands on the money. Now, we talk about in just a second about contributions and retirement programs. It's important to note that I think you can't be short-sighted as an employer, an owner of your practice. And you say, well, God, it's so expensive. Employees sometimes cost a lot of money. Guys, with our system, I'm not saying you have a responsibility, but if you do not help them with their retirement and encourage them with their retirement, you're going to have to pay for it on the backside later. 7 in 10 workers have given up on retirement plans. I have several theories. you need money to retire. So invest over the long haul. Well, that's easy to say, but it's harder to do, and it's harder to have a program of doing it. So let me show you what I mean. And this gets back into the time. Albert Einstein said, the most amazing thing to him is what? Compound interest. Amazing thing. And this is an example of Susan and Sally. It's a very modest, small example, but it drives home the point. You can use 10,000 and do your own multiples, if you will. But at ages 31 to 40, Susan put in 10, she stopped. Sally didn't do anything until she was 41 to 65. So Susan put in a total of 100, Sally 250. Look who has more money. It's just a classic example. Start. Don't ever think, well, I really can't meaningfully contribute. Since I mentioned meaningfully contributing, less than 40% of all small businesses, which your practice would fall into the small business area, only less than 40 have a qualified retirement plan, but only 16% meaningfully fund it. That means they do more than just the deferrals. The 401k deferrals. They're not matching, they're not doing a safe harbor or any additional profit sharing contribution. And a lot of people say, well, Garland, that's expensive. That's expensive. Well, let me tell you how expensive it is if you don't look at doing it. And I'm going to show you, oh, there's Einstein. How much money will you need to have to provide? You got to do a retirement budget. No question. Oh, this is kind of a fun factoid. And these are these actuarial guys up in some cubicle or bubble somewhere that comes up with this. You know what? I want to be 81. Why? Because I'm going to live longer. The guy that's 51, he's going to die at 82, but I'm going to live to 90. Now, you know that I'm being funny. But actuarially, you know, the longer you live, so you've got to be careful you don't outlive your money. And you've got to know when to take your money. Do not sign up for Social Security at 62. I would tell you, don't sign up for Social Security at 65. Now, some of the younger individuals in here, owners, dentists, or just younger people, they're not going to even have a choice, possibly, to take early retirement at 62. Early retirement to them may be 65. That's how they're going to save Social Security. I'll just tell you that. They're not necessarily going to cut benefits, because what happens politically, that's a very incongruent political approach. What they're going to do is they're going to push it back. Why? Because you guys are doing such a great job. You're doing a great job taking care of people, stopping oral cancer. And so they're going to push it out, and that's how they're going to justify it. How will the taxes affect retirement? It's what you invest in, how you invest. Is it municipals, inside or outside the plan? How will inflation impact retirement? Inflation since, really Carter, but more or less after Bush, or after 2008, has been almost zilch. You know what it was in 2000? So far in 2016? It's almost been flat. It's almost been flat. A lot of financial planners come in, they say, well, historical inflation has been about 4%. So we need to calculate all this out here, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not reality. That's not reality. The reality is we have been very flat. A lot of the economists project that we're going to continue to go sideways for a while. Don't look at the market, though. I don't know if anybody's heard about the market today, but it's dipping and falling. This is procrastination is your worst enemy. These are just fun slides. So everybody says, well, Garland, I don't know where to begin. I don't know what to think of. What should I do? What's your number? Ask yourself that one question. What is your number? And then you say, well, Garland, what do you mean by my number? Well, forget Social Security. It'll be there. It may be out further than you thought it would be today. But if you have $1 million, and I'll just throw that up there for you to start to think, what do I need to live on? Now, there's two different ways you can retire. You can use the capitalization approach, or you can use the utilization approach. Capital approach would be that if you had $2 million at 4% and never touched the $2 million, that would be $80,000. So on and so forth. Utilization, you could probably take out about 90, 95. But guess what? At your mortality, and let's just pick 82, 85 years of age. You know, I showed you a unisex mortality table earlier. All your money would be gone. So the thing is, you need to talk to somebody that understands the different retirement programs and how it should work with Social Security. A lot of people jump on Social Security too quickly. Now, if you have health issues, yes, there are other anomalies that you need to look at before you do it. And I'm going to pick up here. In Mahan Associates, and for other firms, but we look at your retirement as 4 cornerstones: the qualified plan, the practice building, practice transition, and then other outside investments. Now let me show you what I mean by that real quick here. Qualified plans, they're not all created equal. How many of you heard that 401k plans, God, they're so complicated and they're expensive. Oh my gosh, you should have a simple. Because what? It is simple. Well, you know what? It may not meet your needs. Somebody may have an integrated 401k plan with no match. Some people may need a new comparability with match. Somebody may need a cross-tested with an enhanced match. There are all different array of programs, and what is right for Dr. Shelburne may not be right for Dr. McNown. Why? Y'all may have different ages, or your staff may have different ages. You may have a young staff. You may have an older staff. So if you have a peer, another doctor says, man, I got this plan. It is the best in the world. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I get this question all the time. Garland, why didn't you do this for me? Because my buddy across town has this, and he says it's the best. Every practice is different. Every practice has different demographics, which means ages, the way the practice is made up. I'm going to show this, then I'm really going to speed up. And this is what I'm meaning. Here, this is a real, actual case study. Oh, I lost my thing. I'll go over here. I can hit this board. Okay? That we did on a client. And you can't read that down there. But you see the percentages, 67, 67, 79, 70, 83, 79. That is the percent that went to owner. If you had $1, and that very last one, you can't tell, but I've got it memorized, that is a cross-tested plan with a regular match. Of every dollar you put in, almost 80 cents goes toward the owner. Now, what does that mean? 20% goes to the individuals. So if you're in a tax bracket, just use $10,000. You're in a 35% tax bracket. That means you're going to save $3,500. Got that math? Well, this right here, it only costs you $2,000 for employees. You're coming out $1,500 ahead. I've gone in and done studies and practices, and I have saved practices, depending on the demographics, anywhere from $14,000 to $23,000 per year. Per year. And I don't say do a plan if you can't justify it. But that just is an example of different types of programs that you need to look at. Okay, here is the 4 cornerstones, just kind of a numerical example. Let's say you sell your practice, and net of taxes, $700,000. You earn 6%, that's $42,000 a year. You have a building, you rent it, you get $90,000 a year. This is pre-tax. And you have built up in your 401k, and I'm going to say $1.5 million. At 6%, that's $90,000 a year. Other miscellaneous investments you may have. This is not talking about Social Security. Then you're going to have $262,000 a year. I don't know what your amount was, what your number is, but that's where you start. You ask, what's my number? What is my number? What do I need? Now, how do you determine your number? Well, it depends on what debt you have. But what you try to do is look at what you need to live on, saying you have no debt. What you need to live on, this is in retirement, with some debt. And it's our job in our firm. Everybody says, well, Garland, I'm probably going to have a lower tax rate. Well, that probably depends on who gets elected, number one. But number two, it's our job to make that not make a bit of difference. We expect and we approach every single one of our clients as if they're going to make pretty much the same in retirement as they did in practice. Or I will tell you, this is one of my agonizing things, then I feel like I failed in a little bit of way, but maybe the client wouldn't listen to me. That could be it too. So that's the 4 cornerstones of retirement: the practice, the building, the qualified plan, and some other miscellaneous investments. Now, there's some things you need to worry about. If you're young or you've not got to this position, if you've not got to that position, you need to worry about some other things. Survivor. Do you have the proper insurance to protect what your number will be, because you still may be leaving loved ones behind? Education. Do you have young children you're still educating? Of course, things change. Disability. You've got to protect yourself with disability, because these can all affect your retirement if you're not protecting yourself. Estate. Is your estate planned? Everybody knows Steve McNair. If you're not from Tennessee, Steve McNair was a very successful quarterback for the Titans. He unfortunately died. I remember the month being July. I have forgotten the year, but he did not have a will. This guy had multi-millions of dollars. He did not have a will. That means you die intestate. You die intestate, and he had 2 marriages, and he had children with both marriages. It's messy, it's crazy, and it's not good. I'll just leave it at that. Asset protection. Guys, again, just speeding on because I'm probably gone over. You need to protect your wealth. Lawyers use paper. You should use paper. Trust, limited partnerships, LLCs. There's a lot of good protection entities out there that you've just got to put things inside with paper. And just remember, the pen is mightier than the sword. I'm going to flip through these slides. You can glance at them. But I could tell you, when I talk to people about asset protection, and the reason I bring it up with retirement, you say, well, Garland, how does that deal with retirement? Well, if you're trying to build up retirement, but you're not protecting yourself on the backside, the other side, then a lot of what you may have done would be useless. And it just blows my mind. There's over $100 million suits currently, 100 million lawsuits currently pending. There's 94% of all the lawsuits are in the United States. And I'll just let you glance at those. One of the things that we do is we try to encompass all of these areas, all of these ideas. And that's to protect you not only while you're living, but maybe after you're gone for your loved ones, or to even help you have that nice, fruitful life. And I'm not saying we're going to make anybody retire, but isn't it nice to know you know where you're going? Isn't it just nice to say, man, I'm going to go to work today because I have a plan. I have a program. I know where I'm going. And this is something we do with Genesis Financial Pathway. And I could go in, but I'm going to stop there because they told me probably 15 minutes ago I had 10 minutes. Is that right, Michael? Anybody have any quick questions? Please see me at the break. I don't know where Chris is to announce the next breakout. Yes, Chris. Do what now? Oh, that's dangerous. Okay, well, let me go over. I have one of the big questions that I get is people will say, well, Garland, am I ever going to be able to retire? Well, you could tell somebody when they ask that question, they're a bit lost. Because number one, they don't know what their number is. If you don't know where you're at, or where you need to, or where you're at, or where you need to be, you're kind of just lost out there just a little bit. And man, isn't it nice? I remember my wife one time, and I'm killing time, but you'll like this. This is some good stuff. My wife one time, she went to the optometrist, and she says, you need glasses. She said, no, I want contacts. Okay, she got contacts. So she got contacts. She went outside, and she says, whoa, I didn't know there were that many leaves on a tree. She could see. The analogy is, if you do nothing, understand your number, understand where you are. If nothing else, know those two things. Because some of the things that really cripple people are those two things. They don't understand the four cornerstones of how you have right now in your business world some potential for income, retirement producing assets. So know your number, know where you are, and pick an age just for the fun of it. Pick an age. Not going to say you have to retire then. I've got some people that truly says, Garland, I would not know what I want to do. I don't have any hobbies other than playing with my grandkids or doing things with my spouse or girlfriend or whatever the case may be. This is what I love. And that's okay. That's great. But just get to that point. And then once you get to that point, holler at me or your own advisor, and hopefully they'll get you the rest of the way.